Twins blow a 7-1 lead. They drop game 2 to Toronto. We're breaking it all down. It's coming up next on the Locked On Twins POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Twins POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? Back in the lab. Back at it. Another Minnesota Twins POSTCAST episode right here in the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man. He's back in the flesh. Theo Tollefson. He's on X, at Theodore Tollef1, Twins expert over at Zone Coverage MN and Twins Daily. And Theo, before we jump into all the action from today, quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by Monopoly Go. And I got to admit, I'm a huge fan of Monopoly Go. It's the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Got a little choked up, man, because that was just this game stung today. We're going to get into it. Here we go. Twins coming in, trying to take what would be their 6th series in a row, by the way, after winning game 1 in Toronto yesterday. More on that game a little bit later in segment 2. But game 2 today, Woods Richardson on the mound. Twins jump out in front right out the gate. 4-0 lead in the second. Correa, Larnach, Kirilloff, all with RBI singles. That was great. Santana makes it 7-1 after his 3-run homer in the third. And all of a sudden, Theo, it just kind of felt like, all right, they're just going to put this thing on cruise control and ride out into the sunset. Not the case, okay? Blue Jays rally back. 2 homers in the 5th. They make it 8-6. Very next inning, bottom 6, bases juiced for Vlad Guerrero, who was already 3 for 3 on the day. He hits a 2 RBI single to tie this thing back up at 8 apiece. Bottom 7, Twins bullpen, they can't stop the bleeding. Sands, Okert, Jackson, Thielbar, they all had a chance to get some momentum back, and all of them in one way or another, they just struggled to do so. Correa had a chance in the 9th with 2 outs and a runner on, keep things alive. He was unable to do so, and the Twins, they blow a huge lead. They lose game 2 to the Blue Jays, 10-8. They drop this one. Their record is now 23-16 on the year. Theo, another wild one in Toronto. I want to touch on game 1 a little bit later on, as I mentioned, but let's just start here. Give us your biggest takeaways, just your 8 topics first and foremost from today's game.
Well, Simeon Woods Richardson has been great so far, but today was really the first time he was out there and the opposing team was just making contact on what was in the strike zone. I mean, half of the Blue Jays hits came off of him. They had 16 total. So his command was there, but it just was right where they wanted it in their wheelhouse. I mean, Bo Bichette got his only 2nd home run of the season. He's been off to a cold start here in 2024. And this is a team that has been struggling, and they just need someone to face and just really realign themselves. And today that was the case with Woods Richardson on the mound, who did pretty well for the first part. But I mean, this is a veteran lineup. They came together pretty well. And when the bullpen they could not put things together because they've been heavily relying on the top end of their bullpen. I know Griffin Jackson's thrown 83 pitches total over the last 3 outings, and that has been over the course of this week. So he was unavailable no matter what today. And you knew no matter what was going to happen, the Blue Jays, I mean, we're going to get into the back half of the Twins bullpen, and they took full advantage of that today.
Yeah, you're up 7-1 at one point, right? You'd like to think you win these kind of games 9 out of 10 times, especially with the way, again, the bullpen has been for the most part of this year, just in general. But all of a sudden, and correct me if I'm wrong, but all of a sudden, the past week or so, you kind of get the feeling this bullpen, right? They're starting to regress back to the mean a little bit. I mean, don't you think? Even with Johan Duran back in the mix, like, is the Twins bullpen now their biggest weakness and kind of vulnerability right now? And if so, is there a main culprit or two back there, or what's been the reason for their downfall as of late?
I think these types of things happen where you have your 3 main sets, your lineup, your starting rotation, your bullpen. One of them is going to falter when the other 2 are doing great. And I think we're just finally entering that phase of the bullpen, needing a break. They're getting overworked. Some of those guys are definitely going beyond what they are limited to. And even when they aren't struggling in that, in the case of the example I brought up with Griffin Jackson, I mean, he's going to need a few days off, and we probably won't see him until the Yankee series at this point with how much he's been throwing, and that's not what he's been meant to do. So I don't think there's any main culprits. I think I mean, they're still leading the league in innings pitched from their starting pitchers. They're in the top 3 of the American League, so I can't complain too much of like Rocco's going too early. But you still want to balance those guys out as much as you do your starters early in the season and make sure you're not overworking them. So when it is more critical, when you have these in-division games in August, September, and you're in a divisional race, you don't have these guys burnt out from overthrowing too much in May and June.
Yeah. Again, bottom line, this one's going to sting for a little bit here until they suit up tomorrow and try to, again, still take this series, which, again, would be their 6th series in a row. That'll be huge. So let me just try to find a little bit of positive here, a little glass half full here. I know I bring up Ryan Jeffers like every episode lately, but come on, dude. The run that dude's been on has been absolutely incredible. Hits his team leading 9th homer, team leading 30th RBI today as well. And again, it doesn't seem to matter whether he's behind the plate or DHing or even behind the count. That's what's most impressive about this. He's been so good. Highest slugging percentage in the entire league when behind in the count. How much of a spark plug has that guy been for this lineup?
He's been unbelievable. I mean, as of right now, he's still leading in the American League in OPS at 988. I mean, it regressed below 1,000, but I mean, from what we've seen from him over the course on his age 26 season and going down 27 later this year, I mean, he's just been phenomenal. He's really been that spark plug and really built upon his success from last year. Again, that first week was a cold start, but I mean, he went through a lot this offseason. With the loss of a child and his family with him and his wife and their son. So just seeing when you have something like that in someone's personal life, especially these athletes who are just good dudes both on and off the field, you just want these moments of success to still come through from him. And you can be happier for what you're seeing out of Ryan Jeffers. And people are already, I know Twins Twitter is going crazy saying he definitely should be the starting catcher for the American League in the All-Star game. I mean, popular vote will probably go to Adley Rutschman, but with how he's playing right now, as long as he can maintain that OPS, even if it's above 850 at that position by the middle of the summer, that's still an all-star catcher.
Yeah, 100% for sure. We got to talk about Kepler too, right? 13-game hit streak now. I said this last show. I'll just say it again. He looks like the second half Max Kepler we've gotten the last few years. And what a difference it makes having him in the lineup when he's hitting like this. But again, in the first half of the season this time around, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen something like that since 2019 from him, really.
Been
Like succeeding like crazy. And, 13-game hit streak, longest of his career. He's getting up there in some of the all-time longest with the Twins. The most recent one where it was above 20 games, it was actually Brian Dozier twice. So if you remember, he did it in 2018 before he got traded, had a 24-game hit streak before they sent him over to the Dodgers. And then he also had a stretch in 2016 when everyone remembered how crazy he was as a slugging second baseman, getting 42 home runs that season. But that's the thing. Brian Dozier had 2 24-game hit streaks 2 times in his career. We don't know if Kepler's going to get up there. We know how hard it is because it's been very rare in the last 15 years to see a guy even get to 30 at this point. So hopefully Kepler can be one of the next, I think I had it up here. I'm going to take a look at my old media guide real quick. That would be 12th, I believe.
Wow.
20th game hit streak, if he can get there. But he's still got a ways to go.
Ways to go. Yeah, let's jump back to Woods Richardson's day a little bit more in depth here real quick. 4 1/3 innings, 8 hits, 5 earned, 2 Ks, 1 walk, 91 pitches on the day. I know those aren't blow you away numbers today by any means, but as you mentioned at the top, I guess I didn't realize he's got one of the lowest ERAs, at least heading into today, right? 1.74 ERA over his last 4 starts. And in this rotation that obviously lost Sonny Gray and Kenta Maeda, he's been, in general, this year, such a pleasant surprise. What'd you see from him today a little bit more in depth? And then bigger picture, how's he look this year?
I think he's still going to take this as a learning experience. I mean, you have these outings, especially as a rookie. We're going to get these outings where a veteran experienced lineup, even if they haven't been at their A game, they're going to take advantage of you and do so. And the Mariners, I also have a strong lineup as well, but they just have not been pulling things together as well as the Blue Jays. And I think I have kind of grouped them as equivalents in just how they built their teams and just how they've gone around things the last 3 seasons, I'd say, and just trying to get to the postseason, but can't get past that first round unless they're playing each other back in 2022, which is what they did. And that's the thing. I mean, you're going to face these lineups, and I'd rather he has this kind of mess against a team like the Blue Jays than the Yankees.
Yeah, I saw up on theathletic.com just an hour ago. Right now, they've got the top 10 rookies in the American League Woods Richardson's number 6 on the list right now. And funny enough, too, I forgot he was part of that Jose Barrios trade a few years ago, actually
That he
came
was.
from Toronto. So he wanted to stick it to his former team today. But as you mentioned as well at the top, that's as tough of a lineup. When they're cooking, that Blue Jays lineup is cooking 1 through 9. That's as tough of a lineup as you're going to see all year. And again, in general, the guy's been a huge overachiever from a lot of people's expectations, I think we had coming into the season. And by the way, too, I know we just played Boston, but I'm looking at this, again, top 10 rookies in the American League. I didn't realize how many young pups they got just ripping it up right now as well. They got 3 guys on this top 10 rookies list. Abreu at number 4, Criswell, the pitcher, at number 7, and Rafael at number 9. So clearly, Boston, too. I mean, they got a great little young core and nucleus they're building back up there over in Beantown right now for sure. Rocco report time, favorite or least favorite move or decision, whatever it may be from today's game, game 2 versus Toronto, the Rocco report, it says what?
It's just the many bullpen moves in one inning. I mean, I know it was a bad 6th, and that's how they retook that lead and just came back from that 7-1 deficit. But I mean, sometimes you just got to let those guys eat innings and still have some of guys available to finish out a series tomorrow, especially with the off day on Monday. Everyone gets an extra day of rest. So, I mean, it is what it is at this point. These games happen, and it's been a long time since Twins fans have seen a devastating loss like this. I mean, there were bad losses last season, but nothing this bad.
100% well said. Good breakdown. Again, as much as this one stings, and it stings, 7-1 lead in the 4th, those sting, no doubt about it. But the winning streak they've been on, just in general, the past 4 weeks, 5 weeks lately, in a long gauntlet 162-game season, these things are going to balance out. There's going to be a lot of ebbs and flows throughout that long season for sure. All right, plenty more deep dive from this one. Plus, we got our nerdy stat of the day coming up. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by Monopoly Go. Now, I've been told I'm the competitive one in the household, okay? I'm the guy who's always trying to kick things up a notch, create a little friendly competition, if you will. That's exactly why Monopoly Go is perfect. And not just for me, but over 150 million other people that have already downloaded it. It's the new latest and greatest twist on the classic Monopoly we all love and remember. And now you can play on not just one board, but hundreds of Monopoly boards, all with different crazy locations, helping you build up amazing new cities that bring you big money. And best part, without a doubt, messing with your friends and family, charge them rent on all the iconic properties, and you can even steal their vaults of cash or team up with your friends and family and earn big rewards. So what are you waiting for? Get in the game, play with all your family, play with all your friends. Go download Monopoly Go for free on the App Store and Google Play. I just feel like last night's game was too good not to at least touch on. No postcast because of the Wolves game last night, and it's too bad because we missed a doozy, man. Great pitchers duel for most of the game. Joe Ryan, 7 one-run innings. He was phenomenal. Kepler hit a monster RBI single in the 9th to extend his hitting streak to 12 at the time, and they needed that insurance run because in the 9th, Blue Jays come back, make it 3-2. They got runners on the corner with 2 outs after a Santana error at first, but Griffin Jacks takes a bullet off his backside. It ricochets right to Santana. He steps on first base, and the Twins get the win. Where did that one rank just as far as like late game drama goes? Because I, for one, thought that was highly entertaining and nerve-wracking at the same time.
I think it brought some flashbacks to the beginning of last October when the Twins last played this Blue Jays team. And that first game, I think, where everything was at stake. I mean, the high drama, the tension that you could feel throughout the ballpark being at that game. And when Michael A. Taylor made that catch, I think that was in the top of the 6th with Louis Var, or top of the 7th, when it's like this could have been the detrimental loss. And the losing streak continues. But this, obviously, a lot less at stake. But I mean, just the feeling of facing this team again, which is a pretty similar build to who they were last year. This Blue Jays team didn't make too many changes with their roster either. It's just bizarre, but you made it work.
You found a way to figure it out. How great was Joe Ryan? Seriously, 7 innings, 1 earned run, 7 Ks, 0 walks. He was fantastic.
Yeah, so as I think talked about last week, I was attending last night's Wolves game, and I know it might not be the best game ever, and that's a whole nother story with
That's
the
fair.
officiating.
Yep.
But to come out see the box score, and I thought I watched the game through the 5th inning before I walked over to Target Center with my
Yeah.
friends, but I didn't think he was going to throw more than 5. So to see the box score and make it through 7, just phenomenal. I mean, he has literally been the anchor when everyone else in this rotation has had some bad outs. Pretty much had a quality start every time he's gone out there, and that's been a huge difference maker for someone just being the stabilizing force. That every time he's getting out there, you're at least going to get the 5 through 6, probably 6 at this point in the season. And he's just going to deliver. He's going to get nasty strikeouts here and there. They might get a walk, maybe a home run against him, but it's nothing too devastating that can really blow up a win. And that as long as he can keep the lineup within a couple of runs, they can help deliver him.
Oh, 100%. So much pressure on that dude's shoulders coming in. Gee, I get it. He's not the number 1 guy, but still, as the number 2 guy, losing the big names that they did. Again, kind of an up and down season last year. Wasn't, for sure what you were going to get. Which Joe Ryan are you going to get this year? He has lived up to the billing, man, and more. And it's just a lot of fun when you see Joe Ryan on the box score lineup saying, okay, we got Joe Ryan today. I just buckle in. I know I'm going to get a good outing more times than not with him this year. It's been fun. All right, nerdy stat of the daytime. I always love a crazy stat or analytic on this show. If you've got one today, we're all ears.
Well, they haven't had this bad of a loss in 2023, but I'm sure many fans remember the June 2022 stretch of games against Cleveland, and specifically with Emil Pagan on the mound. Not to throw the man on the bus, but it was what happened. So there was the midweek game at Target Field on Wednesday night on June 22nd, and the Twins were up 10-6 going into the top of the ninth, and it looks like they were going to win it, and then Pagan gave up. Actually, no, it was 10-7. They gave up 4 runs, and then Cleveland came back to win that one 11-10. And I think that was the difference maker in where that division was going to go for the rest of the season. And that's why Cleveland was able to run away with it, even if they were beaten by the Yankees at the end of it. And that was
Twins fans still got a little PTSD when you say that name, man. I mean, again, not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I mean, okay, you're 100 times the athlete I'll ever be, obviously, right? But man, those were some heartbreaking losses last year, especially against Cleveland in the thick of that AL Central race. For sure.
I mean, 2 years ago, that one was. I mean, nearly 2 years since they've had a bad loss like this. And granted, I mean, Pagan was much better after the Twin Series in Los Angeles last year against the Dodgers, and he just went uphill from there. But that was the last time they had this. I don't have the exact number of days, but it's almost been 2 years. So I think they were due. It still stings when this happens, but I mean, that's baseball. One day you're going to win 3-2, having a ball bounce off your pitcher's back, and then you get the out. But then the next day you go back out there, you could blow a lead and still lose 10-8.
That's why we love it, man. 162 games. You're going to get a little bit of different flavor every single time out there. That's what makes it unique. That's what makes it so much fun. All right, don't go anywhere. We got to preview Game 3 versus Toronto tomorrow. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members to date. And for me and my money, it's by far the easiest and most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports and you watch your favorite players. All you got to do, you pick more or you pick less on 2 or more player stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season, obviously in full swing. So whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, first inning runs, take your pick on more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Might I recommend getting Ryan Jeffers in your next lineup? He's made some people a lot of money the past few weeks. Or get in on all the NBA playoff action like T-Wolves Nuggets and win up to 100 times your money on the Prize Picks app. Plus, don't forget, they now offer Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. One more time, that's code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. I asked this a few days ago. I'll just ask it again because we got to be getting close. I would think Buxton, Royce Lewis. Are we close? And also on the subject, any other names on the IL that maybe are close to returning that we should just keep in the back of our minds?
I think Buxton and Brock Stewart possibly could be
Brock
some
Stewart.
rehab this week in St. Paul. No confirmation for sure. I don't think we're going to get real word of that until Monday. But I mean, Buxton could possibly be activated on the IL and just go back in. I think, as usual, they'll probably have him go on a rehab assignment in St. Paul. Just have him go a couple of games. Fortunately, him getting out there is going to look a lot better than it did last year. I mean, this was a mild injury compared to a lot of the other injuries we've seen with him over the years. So that is the good news. And Brock Stewart as well. I think he's probably going to have a couple outings in St. Paul. And if he's ready to go, he'll join him on the road trip. So I think those are the two immediate ones. And with how today's bullpen game went and this unfortunate setback with Justin Topa, I mean, you got to get Stewart back as soon as possible and not rush the process.
I mentioned that Athletic article breaking down the top 10 rookies in the American League. There's another great piece up there right now from Aaron Gleeman, the geek, about Willie Castro's just kind of crazy journey from getting cut by the Tigers only 2 years ago to where he's at now with the Twins, and just how huge of an impact really he's had on this team, both at the plate, of course, but as that versatile defenseman as well out in the field. It's a great article, but just real quick, kind of your knee-jerk reaction or top of your head about his journey from, again, getting cut by Detroit to signing with the Twins last year, not even knowing if he's going to make the team, right? The 40-man roster, and then having the impact he's had, not just this year, but again, last year as well. Just a really cool story to see everything play out the way it has, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've only skimmed through bits and pieces, but of course, I mean, Gleeman, you can always count on him having some good stuff out there, especially with these player quotes since he's joined the Athletic. It's just been huge what he can do and covering his hometown team. But yeah, Willie Castro has been the guy. I mean, unsung hero. I know a lot of people who've seen his praises all in all, and just to have this journey to be encompassed, and especially with this bad start he had to start the season, and then being one of their best hitters during the 12-game winning streak and maintaining that. I mean, obviously, you can have this guy play shortstop full-time, as he's already done this season when Correa was out, and now he's doing that with Buxton's absence. And once Buxton returns, the hope is, he can kind of just take a step back, watch things, and still just be that versatility. I think every team has been trying to make sure they have their Ben Zobrist type, who's been the prototypical utility man of modern baseball with what he was able to do in Tampa when he broke out back in 2009. And everyone's been trying to find a guy to replicate that. Twins have fortunate enough to have 3 guys on their active roster right now who can really fit that role. But Willie Castro was the guy. Obviously, the other two being Kyle Farmer just in the infield. But I think Austin Martin is definitely on the precipice. Once he exceeds his rookie limits, he can definitely be that type of guy, that super utility that you can plug in some spots in the infield and a couple spots in the outfield to really just deliver.
And speaking of this kind of congested situation, again, in the infield and outfield, there's another cool piece up there about Jose Miranda kind of heating up and just trying to supplant himself in this lineup somehow, some way, even though the deck is clearly stacked against him with, again, the eventual return of guys like Royce Lewis. What's your thoughts on his play as of late at the plate? His outlook, I guess, with the team over the next few months, over the entire season? What's it all look like with him, big picture, kind of long term?
I think the big picture long term after this season, obviously there's going to continue to be a rotating DH role for everyone, whoever fits best in the lineup there that day. But I think, with Carlos Santana only being on a 1-year deal, I mean, he's definitely shown his resurgence. The sophomore slump was 100% a thing, but adding the shoulder injury on top of that just made it all the more worse. But now we're seeing who he was when he came up as a rookie, who was just a hot prospect in 2021, coming out of COVID and just on a surge in one of those first hot prospects you could see with the St. Paul Saints before making his way up with the Twins. Now, I think his future, as I mentioned, Santana early, didn't finish that thought, but, I think Carlos Santana is just here for the one season, and you might have that platoon of Santana and Kirilloff be transitioned to Miranda and Kirilloff, because that was what on the table this year. When he started the season in St. Paul, I mean, we didn't know if the shoulder health was going to be there, and defensively speaking, and no disrespect to it, but Royce Lewis is who you're going to want at third base over Jose Miranda, even though he's looked pretty sharp compared to what we saw last year from him. But in terms of who's going to work better, where you want your best defensive outlook, I think his long-term future with the Twins is going to be back in that first base role, which was up in the air at the start of the season. I think that it's the big thing to really, really assure yourself is you got someone who's this homegrown talent who looked like he might have been a bust, but he's booming back again and really securing himself for the longevity of the Twins throughout the rest of the decade.
How much of a good problem to have does this kind of feel like? Does this feel like the Twins all of a sudden have a little bit more depth to play with, considering the lackluster offseason that they had, really making zero moves, relying on the lineup from last year, and just, again, guys from, below the starters trying to continue to work their way up and develop and progress and things like that. And I don't think a lot of people had a lot of expectations. It's tough to put a lot of expectations and pressure on those guys and just assume they're all going to pan out. It just doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't work that way in the MLB. Does it feel like kind of a good problem to have all of a sudden through the first, 6 weeks of the 2024 season?
Yeah, this is absolutely the good types of problems we want to have, because as we continue to see injuries mount up and going to need guys to step up and fill in these roles. And fortunately, the infield situation has not been as bad as it could have been with the injury to Correa. Castro stepped up, and with Lewis being down, Miranda has stepped up, even though he was not the first person called up when Lewis did get down to fill his roster spot. But the opportunities present themselves, and you just got to make the most of them. And there will be more injuries, unfortunately, as the season goes on. Let's just hope they're a little more alleviated. And these are the good problems you can have, where some of these guys are just going to have to go back to St. Paul because there's no room for them on the active roster. But that's the beautiful thing about the Twin Cities baseball now is if you want to see a specific player, even if it's not on the Twins, you just go 15-minute drive down to I-94 and you can go see him.
It's the best, man. What a great setup we got going on. All right, Game 3 versus Toronto tomorrow for all the marbles. Bailey Ober on the mound for that one. What are the top 2 or 3 things you're looking at for tomorrow, especially knowing how wild these first 2 games have been?
Yeah, I think Ober resetting from his last start, and then who's opposing him on the mound, Alek Manoah, who had gone from all-star to one of the worst pitchers in all baseball, and his return to the Blue Jays has not been great in 2024 after starting the season in the minors. So I mean, you got to see if you're going to continue to see someone who's obviously been on the chopping block of, is he going to continue down in this bad stretch, or is he going to be back to his all-star form? So I think those are the 2 big things. And yeah, how does this lineup respond and this bullpen really respond after such a detrimental loss, which you haven't seen in nearly 2 years?
Again, Twins win that one tomorrow, and they'll have their 6th series win in a row. That'd be unbelievable. All right, let's close out before we get out of here with something around the MLB. What's caught your eye around the league and has just maybe surprised you the most the last few weeks of the season?
I've got a couple of games on behind me right now. This Arizona-Baltimore game, I mean, Jordan Westberg, I know there's a lot of hot rookies there, but he's one who's definitely caught my eye. I mean, he was doing well, getting on base, stole a base here in the later innings. He's some guys, I mean, you got to take an eye on. And it's a weird sport right now. I mean, we got so much going on with uniform issues finally being addressed and top-level talents. It's just a wonderful time to be a fan. And I think just taking in as much as you can is what I usually do. And obviously there are other facets of my life, and baseball doesn't encompass it all, but you got to take in what you can. And so I think Jordan Westberg, even though the Twins have finished their series in Baltimore, he's a guy, hot rookie amongst all their other prospects that you want to keep an eye on next time they face each other.
Yeah, a lot of young, emerging, exploding, high-end talent in the MLB right now. More so, I mean, you can always say that every year, I'm sure, but it feels like this year more so than past years from what we've seen. All right. Well done, my man. Always a lot of fun talking Twins with you. Twins lose Game 2. They blow a brutal 7-1 lead. Game 3 tomorrow. Ober on the mound. First pitch again, 12:37 p.m. Central Standard Time start. As always, huge shout out to everybody that joined us on the stream. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game, same time, same place right here to break it all down. And quick reminder, got to go check out all of Theo's work on X at Theodore Tollefson, plus all the work you're always ripping up over at ZoneCoverageMN.com and Twins Daily. Anything new since the last time we spoke, we should go check out, Twins related, of course?
Nothing for the time being. I'll definitely be putting together some ideas for this upcoming Saints homestand after my sister and I take my mother out for Mother's Day tomorrow. So there'll be some ideas we'll have coming through. But yeah, I mean, with another Saints homestand, you can definitely expect me to be there for at least 4 out of the 6 games and getting some ideas and just seeing what happens.
Hey, you get a pass because with the Wolves doing what they've done, just encompassing everybody's attention in the state of Minnesota the last, not just week, but really month and a half, I think you get a pass on that for sure. And I'm sure whatever you pump out next week, 2 weeks, whatever it may be, I'm sure it'll be awesome. Can't wait to check that out already. And if it's not too much trouble as well, go like, go subscribe, help us get to 8,000 subscribers. That's always much appreciated. All right, that'll do it for us today. That's Theo. I'm Luke Inman on X at Luke_Spinman. We'll see you next time. But until then, signing out.